There being 6:30 on August 13th, I'm going to start the zoning board of appeals off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. First order of business is let me get the... Okay. No, I'm looking for the... Here, there we go. An application of Jeffrey Maker and Champagne Maker for a variance from the frontage requirement, said lot having been approved and subdivided prior to the adoption of current zoning regulations, zoning bylaw 7, Section 5, and be allowed to construct a detached garage. Property is located at 0 Pierce Road, Westport, Mass., and is shown on Assessor's Map 88, Lot 191. So the way I'm going to run this hearing is I'll have the petitioner come up and provide what information is pertinent. The board will ask questions to the applicant. Once the board is done, then I'll open it up to the general public. Voting on this will be Jerry Catino, myself, Roger Menard, Janice Day, Ray Elias, and Cynthia Kozekowicz. So will the applicants come up and just name and address?
Yes, good evening. Brendan McDonald, McDonald Construction, 743 Drift Road.
Good evening, Reagan McDonald, McDonald Construction, 743 Drift Road.
And you're representing the applicants,
Yes, sir.
okay? Are the applicants here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
We're just here on behalf of Jeff and Champagne Maker in regards to 0 Pierce Road. This is a pre-existing, non-conforming lot created prior to the adoption of the current zoning bylaw. We're requesting relief from the frontage requirement under Article 7, Section 7.5, in order to make reasonable use of the property.
Okay. What evidence do you have that this is, that this lot was created prior to zoning?
Well, I mean, these lots were created, there was a deed back in January 11th of 1954. And all the current lots in that particular area, they're all pretty much around the same size
You're
lot.
talking about this?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're all roughly 120 by 100 feet. And you can see, I think we provided in the document showing plot plan of all those existing lots. And I think, like I said, the
Should
make...
look like this document here, the subdivision.
So,
1954. Okay, before, I'm just going to read one letter from the zoning enforcement officer as to the reason why we're here in the first place. I assume the applicant got this letter from Ralph.
This is about the old well.
After review of submitted building permit application and the Westport zoning bylaws, Article 7.5, non-residential minimum lot area and frontage, I have determined that in order to construct a structure for non-residential purposes, the lot must conform to the minimum standards of 150 feet frontage and 60,000 square feet of area. At least 30,000 square feet of that area must be contiguous upland. The lot in question contains 12,110 square feet of area and 120 feet of frontage and does not meet the requirements of 5.7. Therefore, the building permit application is hereby denied. You may appeal this determination as allowed by Mass General Law, Chapter 40. Ralph Souza. Ralph, isn't there also an issue with this being a garage on a...
It's
It's
not accessory to anything.
It's not an accessory to anything.
Anything.
Yes.
It's going to be the primary structure. So our bylaws doesn't have that. We've had a few cases over the years where they've come forward for buildings. One got by previous building inspector, and it caused a little bit of nightmare, a little bit of headache, because they thought they could do anything in the garage that they wanted. I'm not sure if it ever came before this board, but it caused headache because it was close to a commercial zone. It wasn't in the commercial zone, but there was letters back and forth, and cease and desist.
Right, but you note in your letter just frontage requirements of square footage. Is it also in conflict with the other aspect of the zoning bylaw as being an accessory not attached to a primary use?
It's an accessory.
Accessory
It's
building.
going to be the primary building, it's not going to be accessory to anything.
Right.
There's nothing there. Vacant lot.
Is that an issue?
An issue because it's an issue because it's the primary, it's not accessory to anything, it's not a dwelling.
Right, I'm saying, no, that violates another aspect of zoning.
I have a piece of property with an
Right,
accessory
so-
dwelling on, and that's it.
That's
No.
not coming to my mind right now.
I do.
Okay.
I'm looking
He's
at
been
it.
there.
Attorney Blake?
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of jump in and assist Ralph with this. So an accessory use under your bylaw is a use or building customary, incidental, and subordinate to a principal use or building. I think we can all agree, and I think there's cases on it, a garage is an accessory use or accessory building to a typically single-family, multifamily dwelling. And located on the same lot with such principal use or building. So I understand, and I think I've been involved with Ralph on some of these, where he's taken the position, and I think it's a legitimate position that other municipalities have taken, that if you have a standalone lot that's not contiguous with your house lot, then putting a garage on that would not be allowed. But let's back up a little bit. You claim it's a pre-existing, non-conforming buildable lot.
Correct.
I just barely saw this like 3 minutes ago. I can't opine, but I'm gonna take what you say as true. If that's the case, and this is strange, you could put a house on that lot, provided you could get the setbacks, and I understand, provided you could get septic. I think you have an issue with septic. But under the bylaw, without some type of relief, you can't put just a garage on. I think the relief would likely be a use variance. Now, most municipalities don't allow use variances. Use variances have to be explicitly allowed in a zoning bylaw. But luckily for you, Westport's one of the few towns that I represent that has use variances. But it's gotta be a hardship based on shape, soil conditions, or topography of the lot. So you'd have to make that showing. The other issue would be to put some type of living quarters above it, but then I think you run into a Board of Health issue. I don't know if it'd be better for you to get that Board of Health issue taken care of, and then propose to put some type of protected dwelling on that lot. I mean, I think that would be as much as a apartment above a garage.
What about the restrictions that are in the deed and the restrictions that one of the abutters brought up? I researched all the way back to when they tried to put, like, can we put a septic system here? Well, at the time, the Board of Health said absolutely not, it's not a buildable lot during
Yep.
that time frame.
Yep.
But two of these things, one of them says you can't put exactly any outbuilding constructed, including such building intended for use as a garage, shall either immediately adjoin the house or attach in a breezeway, or any garage may be constructed under the first floor. It says you can't do it there. And no dwelling house now standing hereafter erected on the granted premises shall be built or maintained as other than a single-family dwelling unit. So, and this one here locally is signed in 2021.
Okay, this is, and I'm sorry, right?
It's a deed restriction.
It's a deed restriction.
And those same four are in this 1980.
Okay, but I think the issue
Well, 54,
becomes,
I'm sorry.
the issue becomes, who has the authority to enforce a deed restriction? It's likely all of these folks that are involved in it probably would have to enforce the deed restriction. I don't know that it would be.
Is that like a covenant type thing for the entire neighborhood?
It could be. Without having done a bunch of research, it does kind of look like a covenant for the entire neighborhood. I agree with your characterization.
It does indicate that in the material we got from someone. It's not a legal document, but it's a summary of, and it says
Well, it's
that
recorded
these
at the registry.
restrictions
So this one's recorded,
on
yeah.
everyone's land. This is what it says. These are the restrictions on everyone's land, and it goes on. There are 4 listed here. One has to do with the dwelling, another one has to do with any outbuildings, so forth.
It's also in the deed as well. I mean, and you're right, but I guess the question really becomes, for purposes of zoning, do we go through and enforce, deed restrictions or the like? Just because if you sat here today and said, you've proven to me that this lot was inexistent and a buildable lot prior to 1957 when zoning was adopted. Therefore, under 48, section 6, I think it's paragraph 4, vacant lot, and it has at least 5,000 square feet and 50 foot of frontage, it's grandfathered. It's a buildable lot. That's fine.
For a dwelling.
Well, just, it's a buildable lot. Now, that doesn't mean that you can put in an accessory building because your zoning bylaw doesn't necessarily allow that. It doesn't mean that the neighborhood couldn't bring an action against them. And it doesn't mean that the Board of Health can say, you can't put a dwelling on there.
So, Ralph, last week we had a case before us that was then, they withdrew their claim. On that piece of property, there's an accessory dwelling there that was approved by the building inspector.
It came through this board, though.
Right, and what they got to use it, how did they get a use? That's
The Lord's.
How did they get a use?
It may very well have been a farm.
Right, so they could build the barn on this property if they wanted to, under the right to farm.
In order to qualify, I think you have to have more than 5 acres or 2.5.
That's what he's got. At
Whatever,
14.
yeah.
No, there's no restriction, no. The Department of Agriculture, I understand this as the vice chair of the Ag Commission. The Department of Agriculture considers 1 acre a farm.
That's what they're-
Consider it a farm,
But
They don't have that.
61A For zoning, 61A.
It's
you
5
have to have
acres.
5 acres in production.
As does 61, strike that, 40A Section 3 also defines a farm as either 5 acres or, I think it's 2.5 acres in production and making at least X amount of
And
money.
Westport's bylaw for right to farm has that listed the way I just said. And that was done at town meeting, changed.
Yeah, but it's still not an acre, so.
You can call yourself a farm, but you're not gonna get 61A and you're not gonna do all of that.
But if you read through the deed says, any outbuilding herein constructed, including such building intended for use as a garage, shall either immediately adjoin the house or be attached to it by a breezeway, except that facilities for a garage may be constructed under the first floor of a dwelling house. So even the deed says that it's got to have a house.
You could argue that it means that if you're going to have a house on it, you can't have another building on it, but
It says if you're going to have if you,
if you're going to have a
Done this
house,
before, Ralph?
yeah.
A couple of times.
Down there. Is this the only vacant lot down there? right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah.
And our point, we're not disputing, the facts in terms of the covenants or the new bylaws. Well, we're just looking for, sympathetic ears in terms of, these are upstanding citizens, they live in the community, they've lived there their whole lives, they live down south, they're planning on spending, the rest of their time up here. They're outdoorsmen, they have boats, they have bikes, they love this area. They approached me, we do a lot of work down the harbor, they approached me a few years back, and they said, we've got this vacant lot, it's just sitting here. There's all these other very similar lots. Actually, exactly the same in size, and they said they really wanted, you know, to really utilize that property. I mean, if you go up into that neighborhood, I mean, like I said, we were up there, I actually drove up today. There's a house, an architect, Patrick Ahern, they demolished the house and they rebuilt the house right next door across the street on
Yeah.
Fairway Drive. They
Yeah,
did a beautiful.
they came before us.
Yeah, they did a beautiful job.
Yes.
I mean, if every house in that development looked like that, trust me, you would be pleased that they would be putting structures like this on 12,000 square foot lots. And they understand that we really felt that just the previous planning, due to no fault of anyone here, but, I mean, the previous lot owners were allowed to put septic systems and wells without the consideration of the maker's lot. So to their detriment, we felt that really that creates a hardship for them. I mean, now they've got a vacant lot here that met all the criteria at that time, and we understand as time goes by, zoning and laws have changed, but we're not looking to build this a magnificent structure. We're looking to build a very vernacular, barn-style carriage house that really, we believe it's going to really be a benefit to the neighborhood. They've actually been so kind, they're actually, in the past, they've allowed other neighbors to use that lot because there's very minimal parking there, and they've been kind enough to let other neighbors use the lot for parking, for functions and things like that, and they're going to continue that. They've made, they're going to have beautifully stone walls, we're going to have gravel driveways, so Mrs. Maker, she's an artist. They're not looking for bathrooms or anything like that. She's an artist. She just wants a little place for a studio. Like I said, he's got boats and bikes and things like that. It's going to be, like I said, a very architecturally sound building that's going to really blend in with the neighborhood. And actually, it's going to be really an asset, I think. We're going to have, you can see the materials we use. We're going to be using very high-end materials. Cedar shake roof, white cedar shingles. It's going to be traditional design. So we really think it's going to be a benefit both to the neighbors, obviously to the makers, and really we're just looking for you guys to just, you know, be sympathetic towards them and really, really common sense in this. I mean, otherwise, I mean, they're going to have a vacant lot there. I mean, they're going to be they're going to be resorted to putting boats and putting fences, and it's going to really be an eyesore if, in our feeling, we really think it's going to be a benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you said.
However,
But we have laws. We have to find some way of making this legal.
Yeah, well, our premise is really, I mean, we really think it's a hardship, and it's no fault of theirs.
Well, but,
And under the law,
yeah.
that does grant them some latitude in terms of you guys
The law,
saying,
the
hey.
hardship has to be based on the topography of the land. So if there was a ledge, if there was a stream, if there was something in the way that said you couldn't do something, that would be a hardship. Yeah, I've been to the lot. It's a nice square lot, and, you know, the neighborhood is very nice. Saying that there's a hardship based on the land is really a stretch. But, you know, that's, you know.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying the land, I'm saying just really
you
the
know,
circumstances.
If you wanted to put a house on it,
You know.
it probably wouldn't be, it wouldn't be the same discussion because that's allowed. The house you're gonna have the problem with because you probably can't put a septic on it. So you could pass us and go to the health department, and then they would say, no, you can't, you have to be 100 feet away from everybody's well.
Yeah.
And I guess when you add up everybody's well, there's no place on your land that isn't 100 feet away from somebody's well.
wouldn't that be topography of the land?
Yeah,
I mean, I think,
Yes.
That's not due to zoning.
yeah.
Jeff, is there any,
But I'm saying is
is there
that,
any opening for us?
I mean, the opening for you is for them to prove that this was a law in existence, and you give them a determination that it's a pre-existing, non-conforming, buildable law. That's it, right? Not that you can build just a garage on it. I'm really looking over this restriction, and I gotta be honest with you, I find it a little self-serving that one person records something that says the restrictions are hereby extended.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but in any event, as I said before, I don't think that this is something that this zoning board needs to really get in the weeds on. If the neighbors believe they have a restriction on all the lots, that gives them standing to bring the case. But again, the issue becomes, they have a buildable lot. It's not a lot under your bylaws that allows just an accessory use. There's also the issue of Title V. Now, I would recommend that you get an attorney and an engineer, because I don't know, I don't know all the dimensions, and I do think you can vary Title V.
But we can't.
No, you
Right.
can't. No, you absolutely can't.
Right.
You absolutely can't. So I think the best you could do for them tonight is either ask them to withdraw without prejudice, let them, after this discussion, go back, get people and come back with their ducks in a row, or you could make a finding, well, I don't even think you can, having just received this just now, I don't feel comfortable telling you that lot was created prior to 1957. I think we all know from our last meeting, bylaws were adopted in 1957, so we've got that off the top of our head. This lot appears to be created in 1954. They're showing this. I mean, that might be enough for you guys to say, yeah, it was created then, and it is a pre-existing, non-conforming, buildable lot. I think that's the best you can give them, but that's not gonna allow you to build just an accessory building, because when you come in for the zoning, for the building permit, Ralph's gonna say, no. He's gonna say something a little different, but he's gonna say, it's an accessory building, you don't have a primary use, you're out. You show me a primary use, a dwelling, then I'll issue it, but at that point, Ralph will also correct me if I'm wrong, he'll check with the Board of Health to make sure, and you gotta get a check off from them. So it's not impossible for you to do, but it's an interesting one. It was quite an interesting one when I sat down and delved into it. It's not just a variance from frontage.
No, and I know, and we understand that too. I mean, we're not looking for anything that, we're looking for something that's going to better anything. That's why, even if we're looking for a recommendation, like if, hypothetically, if you said, no, we don't think it's, for the laws, like you said, or the bylaws, it doesn't meet the standards. So at the end of the day, in terms of the town of Westport, even that community, how does it help anybody to have a vacant lot, or what usage can he use? Can he just store anything he wants on that lot and just, he can do anything other than that? I mean, we're trying to make a bad situation good for everybody. So what would you recommend in the event that we do with that
I
lot?
can't recommend what you should do with it.
The best nature for
I
everybody.
mean, I hate to see it, it's a nice little lot. I mean, it would be nice if,
You could build a nice little
to put
house on it.
something there, the constraints are that if you were to build, try to build a house on it, from what I understand from the limited documentation we have, it would be difficult to pass Title V of the Health Department. If it wasn't for that, I think, again, assuming that your deed, assuming everything is squared away, that it is a pre-existing, that, the deed is before 1957, and it was a it was assigned a lot back then if it was buildable then, it's buildable now, essentially, it's grandfathered in. But we still have to abide by the building code and the health code currently. And
And there was something we also got, I don't have it right now with me, but they had gotten they got either the variance from the frontage requirement previously to build a lot, but then they never built a house, but they never built the house on it, so therefore it went stale. That was back in, I think your dad might have done that in the
Yeah.
60s or something.
Yes.
The
So-
other option is, as I said before, you can grant them a use variance.
Use variance.
But it's got to be based on shape, soil, and topography.
Can you use the size of the lot as that?
No.
no.
And you can't use septics
Yeah.
in the way.
Septic, wouldn't be considered soil conditions between the septic, because that's really the thing that is prohibiting them to do it, is the soil conditions of the abutters who, they're pretty, and like I said, that is no fault of theirs. That's really, really kind of emphasis on the hardship. I mean, that is the problem, is the soil conditions of the septics that's creating a problem for them to build that. And they didn't create that condition. We believe that the abutters created those conditions, and they disregarded the fact that that lot, whether it was the building department or the previous administration, whoever was at the Board of Health, they didn't take that in consideration when they granted those conditions in terms of, septic systems on those abutting properties. I mean, that should have been considered at the time when that was, when those permits were being presented for building permits. That's no fault of theirs that wasn't considered,
Title V, Title V probably was in existence when those building permits got pulled.
No, I
That's why.
understand. I'm not
So
saying.
they couldn't
No.
have forethought that at
Yeah.
some
No,
point, there's gonna be this thing called Title V that's gonna require that septics and wells need to be 100 feet away from each other. So they couldn't have done it then. They were just following the rules of the day.
No, I'm not
you know.
saying it's their fault, but
Yeah.
I mean, zoning changed all the time, and we understand that, but our argument was really like, I mean, they're in a position where, like I said, they're not looking to do they were doing something that's very modest. We thought it was going to be a noble thing to do, and we didn't think, and we understand you guys are here to do your job, but really, that was really the hardship that we thought was the soil conditions due, from the septic, and really, that's really kind of, we're looking for some latitude on that end.
Before we get much further, I am going to read a couple of correspondence, just put it into the record. Westport Zoning Board, we are writing this letter in support of regarding Jeff and Champagne Maker's desire to build an art studio garage on their Pierce Road lot. The Makers are our neighbors. The Maker family has contributed to the Westport community for many generations. His parents were raised here, as well as his grandparents. He is committed to the community. Now that Jeff and Champagne are retired, they are spending more time here and less time at the primary residence in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is obvious that Jeff Champagne deeply cares about Westport by the time spent here and their actions, such as joining the Westport watershed and how well they maintain their house at 15 Fairway Drive. We have heard of a possible restriction on the lot regarding any building not attached to a house. We know they have been denied a septic permit as the adjacent lots previously built and placed their system so close to their lot line at the required distance between systems isn't possible. They would like to be allowed to build an art studio garage without septic as an alternative. We have seen the plans and talked with Jeff and Champagne about how they would develop the lot. In our opinion, it would be a fine addition to the neighborhood, a quintessential New England-style structure. Additionally, they want to add a stone wall and shell drive. They even designed the north-facing side to appear as a house so as to not diminish the neighborhood's aesthetics. We hope this letter in support carries some weight and helps the Makers gain approval of their plans. As we know, they will respect and honor the beauty of Westport. Jonathan and Christine Barillo, 9 Fairway Drive. I have another, this one lengthy, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. Dear members of the Westport Zoning Board of Appeals, it's from Holly and David Cummings. And again, it is. Let's see if I can just, every neighbor has been able to build on their property, and they were owner of 10 Pierce Road. They would want the right to build just as the Makers are requesting. In our opinion, there is no plausible reason for any neighbor to try and block this request. We wholeheartedly encourage the board to approve this application. So, anyway, that's the correspondence from the neighbors.
Does the well have any effect on it, Jeff? There's a well in this place.
Was it
Yeah.
potable?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, they have to get a septic system on for the dwelling part of it. My advice is to get an attorney that might be able to help you out with this. I don't know if there are alternative systems that could be used through Title V. Somebody would, an attorney may. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking in my mind, but I'm not giving you legal advice. And that's why I just think if you get somebody in here that knows the town, might be able to assist you to get to the Board of Health. I think you've probably can prove that it's a pre-existing non-conforming buildable lot. I think you're there on that. Then the two issues are, you gotta put some type of dwelling up there in order to be able to satisfy the bylaw absent a use variance, and I don't think these guys are ready to give a use variance, and frankly, if they give you a use variance, it'll be very susceptible to challenge. Shape, soil, topography, you'll get in a butter to run into court and challenge it, and, you don't want that. I know you probably wanted to save some money, but it might be best if you get a lawyer in, and then maybe even an engineer to assist you at the Board of Health.
So
Those are my
if we gave them a use variance and the 20 days went by, no one complained, and that structure was there for 10 years, you're saying that a new owner down there could challenge?
No, 20 days to challenge use
Right,
variance.
and it doesn't seem like they're gonna challenge.
I'm just,
It sounds like it doesn't seem like they're gonna challenge, or we could say if we give them a use, if we're okay, I mean, we gotta figure out a way to give them a use variance, of course, under the laws. But if we did, it's only a 20-day waiting period, and then they know, and once they get the permit, they're fine.
and then they got to exercise the variance within 1 year.
Yeah, that's what happened they already had
That's
one,
right, yeah,
yeah.
and they didn't exercise.
Exercise it, but, yeah, and that was before all the Title V, it was in the 60s, so it was before Title V, so.
Has there been a formal determination by the Board of Health that you cannot put any septic there or well?
We presented it to the
Yeah.
building department. I don't know, I don't even know if it made to the,
There was
Board of Health.
yes, there was a letter
Yeah, was
in
it?
2011 to Cosenbach Realty from the Board of Health saying that lot is located in the corner, there's no dwelling or other structure that would activate a grandfather clause for variance from Title V. So if there had been a pre-existing well and a pre-existing septic, and they were just trying to upgrade it, they would get a variance, but the fact that there wasn't a septic on the property, at least to the extent of a grandfather clause, but I think what our attorney is saying, there may be some alternative systems that can be put into place. But then you still have the water issue. Because it's not a potable well, and you're in Westport Harbor, so there ain't no water down there.
Excuse me, I'm trying
But it's
to-
not, no, it was
Excuse
Gordy,
me, Cynthia,
Oh.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
okay.
I know that the Board of Health has granted waivers to 50 feet, but it may be that that's like on a repair on an existing situation. So that's why I'm asking you, has there
Yeah.
been a formal?
no, there hasn't. I mean, Ralph reviewed it, and obviously, he kicked it back based on the setback requirements and the frontage,
So
so,
you don't think
we-
these folks have ever gone to
No.
the Board of Health for an actual?
no. And the same thing, I mean, we haven't entertained, I mean, with the engineers, I mean, we've done closed systems before, there's other alternatives. We really, we weren't, I mean, we were trying to, they really weren't looking to build a structure. We really thought that this would satisfy everyone. They're not looking to build
Right.
another home. They didn't want to have, make a big impact in terms of having another residence, and it was nothing like that. They were really just trying to make the best usage out of that property. But if it meant, obviously, we have to go down the road, and, I spoke to the city planner, and he's an engineer, and I spoke to him about it, and he said everything that the attorney said, that it was a pre-existing lot. Obviously, it doesn't meet the current zoning bylaws, but you could build, they could, by right, build a house on there, a residence out there, as long as we could get around the septic. And that was the problem. But the problem with that was the abutters, they have, the 100-foot setbacks with the wells, and that's creating a problem. So, but there is a private water system down there. We had talked about, obviously tying into that system if possible. So instead of having a private well, I mean, there are other options, but they really, they thought that really, like I said, this would be the best usage. They weren't looking to build a dwelling. But if that's what it took to like circumvent, obviously these issues, obviously, we'd, appreciate you giving us time to do that before you made a decision. But really, we just really thought this was the best interest of everybody, to build a carriage house that was in keeping with the neighborhood and made, in terms of common sense, it made the most common sense to me and all of us involved. But we understand that obviously you guys have, there's laws and rules that have to be followed, but we were really just looking, obviously, for some consideration and really a variance to say, hey, this would make the most practical sense for that lot. And we still believe that, to be honest with you.
You really want to put an art studio in there without a bathroom?
Yeah, I mean, they literally live right across the street.
They live across,
How
oh,
many, excuse me, how many bedrooms in the main?
What is it? Is it in the main house? Three.
There's three?
Yeah.
You need three? Well, I'm just saying, on Cadman's Neck, we had a guy build a boathouse across the street. He tied his septic system from the house into that.
Yeah,
You could probably tie
that's
system
interesting.
into that.
That's interesting. I just don't know because of the road. We'd probably have to get some kind of an easement right to cross the road. I'm not saying it's not possible. I just don't know if it's practical.
But if all of your neighbors are in support, perhaps that
Yeah,
would be possible.
yeah.
You'd have to eliminate one bedroom in the main house and just say,
Yeah.
The other bedroom is now on the top of maybe perhaps the garage and artist
Sure.
studio, there's a bedroom upstairs, right? Or, and you
No, that-
have to have you have to be a full working, you'd have a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom, where there's at least a kitchen, right? It could be a
well, they
studio.
weren't gonna build a house anyway, but they could build a house that's not gonna live in. They're just gonna do a lot,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Guest house.
We're trying not to be negative, but
No, I understand.
there is rules.
No, I understand.
well, since you're here, you might as well describe here what it is you plan on building. It looks like the first floor is all garage.
Yeah.
The second floor looks like just one big open area.
That's it, just one big open space. It's really just an old style, I mean, we call it, they said garage, but carriage house, really.
Yep.
And it's just gonna be, big old barn doors on the front. Like I said, very vernacular, simple design.
How high is it?
It's within it's only a story and a half, so, we got 8-foot walls, probably another, to the cupola, we're less than probably 25 feet.
Okay. And I looked at where you put it, setbacks are fine,
Excuse me?
you're not violating any setback zoning
No.
regulations. But we're still.
What do you think is, what do you think is, what do you think of the design of the building?
It doesn't really matter to us.
No?
Unfortunately. We're not to rule on
No.
aesthetics.
Yeah, we don't rule on aesthetics. I mean, you can, it's not our job to tell people how they can build.
Off the record, do you like it?
Terrible.
No, we just,
Yeah, it's even within septics of a corner lot. I mean, the setbacks of a corner lot, because you have to have it both. Yeah.
Oftentimes, we have to agree with you about common sense. And a lot of the times, the rules that we have to go by are not common sense. And that's partly because we have a town meeting, and you can't really explain things, and things get half-baked in the way that the wording is, and so it's just the way it is. We have to deal with that.
we understand.
But we're still stuck with a rule that says we can't have an accessory use without it's got to be an accessory to something.
That's why I think that they ought to go and either formally or informally discuss with the Board of Health what they really can do or can't do.
Right.
And I think Ray's suggestion of possibly reducing the, if it's that close, right directly across the street.
No, it's actually, it's not directly across. It's-
Slightly.
Yeah, it's, yes.
But it's
correct.
pretty tight down there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, you might be able to get away with something like that. You can reduce the bedroom size. We've dealt with that on this floor. We've dealt with that with some of these mother-in-law apartment things,
Yeah.
you know, the ADUs and so forth, where you have to reduce the bedroom size in one area in order to build another one. But we haven't gotten into crossing streets.
But, I mean, what I'd like to,
That's a road.
I'm sort of on I could make an argument that the soil and the topography, because of the neighborhood wells, makes it impossible to put a septic on the property. But, so, I think to your point, if you show to us that you couldn't put a septic on that property, and some case law showing that something similar to either well location, septic location, Title V is
Inappropriate hardship.
an appropriate hardship under the soils and topography, I would then be satisfied that we could issue a use variance. But I think until we know for sure that you can't put a septic in it, because because you said that and I remember that we had some waivers where the town can do a 50-foot waiver to well, yeah. Because is any of the neighbors using their wells, or are they all using the public water supply?
No, some wells.
Yeah.
I believe the back eddy has a septic system that's completely across the street. So, and that never.
But they own
came-
both pieces
that
of
never
property.
came before us, because that really is part of a commercial property now, and that should have come before this board, but that's another issue.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you talk with the Board of Health in an official capacity, maybe they've got some ideas for you.
I'm going to open it up to the public here in a minute, but I also want to describe what your options are.
Okay.
We can go ahead with the voting on a variance. Now, if it fails, you can't do anything for 2 years. Anything similar. You could ask for a
Roger.
continue. Excuse me?
They're asking for a variance of the frontage, but in reality, they would also need
Yeah,
a use variance, which they didn't apply for,
Right.
right? I just want to make that clear.
Right. You can ask for a continuance if you wanted to provide additional information. You can also withdraw without prejudice, and what that allows you to do is, essentially, this never happened. You can come back next week with another petition that, to satisfy whatever the issues are. So those are your three options. The variance one, obviously, if it passes, you're good to go and, have fun. If it fails, you've got 2 years before you can do anything. Like I said, then, the continuance just allows us to gather more, you to gather more information, or withdrawing without prejudice allows you then to take your time and come back when you've really ironed out whatever issues the board has brought up. So those are your three options. I just wanted to make sure you understand that before we move on.
Well, we're willing to.
Before you-
without prejudice.
I mean,
No, sorry.
you have to come and actually talk to the microphone. So, but before you do that, I want to hear from the audience. Is there anybody who wants to voice their opinion on this?
Hi. My name's Kate Wilson. I live at 22 Fairway Drive, which is directly attached to the south side
Okay.
of Jeff's lot. I understand Jeff is asking for a hardship variance under the zoning bylaw 7.5 to build a non-residential structure. With all due respect, it should have not even gotten this far to grant this variance. The Westport Board of Health already determined years ago, Title V, under Title V, that Jeff's lot is non-buildable because there are 5 wells servicing 5 houses whose total radii encompass the entirety of his lot. If you allow him this variance to build, your decision will affect those wells and our 5 homes uninhabitable. It doesn't matter whether Jeff says he won't put in a septic system and/or he won't put in a well. Just digging a foundation for the non-residential building will compromise all these 5 wells. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you about the groundwater contamination from chemicals and bacteria that are caused by digging a foundation. Allowing construction on Jeff's lot will negatively impact the 5 potable water wells' integrity and stability. Finally, allowing Jeff to build a non-residential structure in violation of the codes that protect our wells could lead to issues selling any of our 5 homes in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one comment on that.
Sure.
They could legally build a house there, and there isn't anything anybody could do about it. Assuming that, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that the septic issue, there was nothing stopping them from building a house there, a 2 or 3 bedroom house. You know, 30,000 square feet, not 30, 3,000 square feet. So the fact that they want to put a garage there would be less than if they were going to build a house there. But, you know, so.
It just worries me about the,
Diane,
I've seen foundations going in and,
I understand.
yeah, I just worry.
Realize that if we determine the land is grandfathered so that it is buildable, and if it were in fact buildable from a water standpoint, then they could build a house there, and there's nothing that anybody could do to stop them. No, anyway, I just want you to understand that.
I don't, just because I thought the letter from the Board of
I'm
Health,
just saying, if
right, if.
it were not
If
that
there
there was a
wasn't.
septic issue, they could build a house there, and you're saying that the garage would have affected your wells, the house would affect your wells.
Yeah.
If you believe that, then the house would be just as bad for you. So anyway, that's.
Yeah.
As well as the other house that we disapproved the permit for recently, that was in the same range of your house
Yep.
and the other 5 houses. I mean, there's been a lot of construction down there, and I guess, I understand your point, but there's a lot of other issues regarding water down in the Westport Harbor area than you putting a foundation in, which probably wouldn't even be a full foundation anyway, because you don't need
Slab.
you don't need a basement because you don't got any,
No, we'd only be digging,
Yeah.
below the frost line, about 4 foot.
Yeah, thank you for coming up. I
you.
understand your concern. And I don't know how we put this, but sometimes the alternative is worse than what's proposed.
I have a question for
Thank you.
you. You heard us earlier talk about all of these restrictions that are in the deeds.
Yes.
They're not the town rules. From your knowledge, do you or all of the other neighbors comply with all of those deed restrictions?
So
Sounds like-
every 20 years, apparently you can extend the deed restrictions. my grandfather started the deed restrictions, then my father 20 years later, and then again another 20 years later, and I, which was the 2001, where everyone signed, including Bill Maker, Jeff's father, signed the deed restriction. And then in the year 2021, during COVID, I extended the deed restrictions.
What do you mean by that? What did you do to extend the deed restrictions? Eliminate them?
I'm sorry,
Did you eliminate the deed restrictions? I don't know what you mean by extend.
extended them, so way back when in 1957, 56, Steve Howland, the owner of this huge, yeah, exactly, put deed restrictions on the whole neighborhood, which is what you had in your hand. And there were 4 deed restrictions. So after that is when we just extended them. We have documentation that says that you can do that. I've got it here, but I would be shifting.
Every 20 years it expires. Is that correct?
Correct. If you don't get it right, after 20 years it expires. But so you have to do it before the 20 years is up.
So you don't change any of the content of the restrictions, you just simply extend the time period for them. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll go back to my question.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm asking this is if we were to get through all of this, I'm not certain, our town attorney has indicated that we have no part in the deed, in enforcing a deed restriction, but the neighbors may.
Mhm.
And so that is why I'm asking the question. Are they all abiding by those deed restrictions?
The abutters are, as far as I know.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Glendinning. I live at 3 Pierce Road, which is directly adjacent to the property in question, to the west. I'm glad that we were just talking about the deed, because I just wanted, by way of real-world context, I purchased this property at 3 Pierce Road in 2016.
Talk a little louder.
Sorry, yeah, I purchased the property at 3 Pierce Road in 2016, and the question of the buildability or not of that adjacent lot was absolutely a part of the way my property was marketed to the public, and I believe also reflected in the price that was asked for that property. And as part of our own due diligence in exploring that property, we hired a lawyer to look into these various issues, and were given very strong assurance that the deed restrictions on all the properties in the neighborhood would prevent, in all likelihood, a single-family dwelling because of the septic issues. Not because of a house per se in and of itself, but the related septic issues. And also the fact that a separate freestanding garage would not be allowed either. So I believe that was factored into the price that I and others were looking at for that property. Also relatedly, and this may seem like a weird thing to bring up, but the price that Jeff paid for the parcel in question, which I believe was $50,000, clearly has factored in the severe restrictions on the buildability of the lot. So to suddenly determine that it is buildable, I think is, it just feels very, very off to me. Thanks.
I'm John O'Shaughnessy. I live at 25 Fairway, which is right across the street from this lot. And I've been looking at this pretty hard. I've walked over and I've talked to Bill Maker about 4 times. Went in, he showed me plans, we talked about this. And I can tell you from talking to Bill that he was extremely aware, or very aware, of all the restrictions that were on this property, including the subdivision extra restrictions. He was aware of the Title V issues, and I think he just expected to get around them. So as evidence of that, one day you wake up and he's drilling a well in the back of the property, very close to the Glendenning's well. It was shut down by the town because it was too close to the borderline, too close to their well, too close to their septic. It sits there, not even capped, no electric, no well pump in it. So Mr. Maker purchased the lot just in the last few years. And like I said, he was definitely aware of the declaration from the Board of Health in 2011 that said, under Title V, the lot is not buildable. In 2001, Jeff's father signed a recorded joint subdivision declaration pledging to defend the subdivision zoning restrictions. And maybe some of you might remember that that was inspired by the late Bill Devine, who bought Lot 191, and his thing was to come in and drive it through the town and get it done. He did that house on Atlantic, which is up in the air, right up against the bulrushes there, and got everybody pretty upset. So anyway, in 2022, in spite of all the Title V issues and the restrictions, Jeff's father went ahead and drilled a well, as I mentioned, that was stopped by the town. The lot is non-conforming, it's under 60,000 feet, it's never had a structure on it, which might give it any grandfather rights. And when I look at the drawing, I get to look at the garage doors. It suggests to me additional uses versus just storage for a small car, a boat, and an artist studio. It's quite substantial, and it would cost a lot of money for those minimal uses. So once we would, I don't understand why we're here at zoning right now. Given what they know, they should be, as your suggestion is, they should be at Board of Health. Okay, they already know they're going to face that, and if they were to get a variance, they know they're going to face us because we're going to challenge them on the subdivision restrictions. At least the abutters are around that. Let's see. So we mentioned here, I'm just being a little redundant with what was talked about, but we say only single-family units on the property, no detached garages. The restrictions are placed in 1957, but they did come from the seller of the property. When he was going to, just along Howland Road, he wanted to see this property developed right on the golf course there. And in fact, it's renewed every 20 years. It's been very nicely renewed, recorded in Bristol County, and the last renewal was in 2021. Every lot developed in the subdivision since the restrictions were put in has complied with the restrictions. In fact, the most recent house, which is 29, beautiful house that you've all seen, had to make some adjustments in order to comply with the subdivision restrictions. So my conclusion here is, like I said, I don't really understand why we're here, given that Jeff and his father knew exactly what the problems were. I think he would have gone to the Board of Health at the beginning to figure that out, to get through it. Then he would have had to face the subdivision. He knew that wasn't going to fly with the subdivision. And they even, evidence of that is he even had a water well that was drilled that was shut down, that the town is going to take action. So I guess what I think about is, in our subdivision, we have 15 homes, and they seem to get nicer all the time. And zoning is about, keeping things consistent, keeping the quality in the town, and keeping, regularity of the development in the subdivision. I mean, we're all aware of East Beach, where you don't have any zoning there, or whatever zoning that you have. So to take a subdivision like ours, which is 100% houses, except for one lot, which you can guess why it wasn't buildable, and to stick a garage on there is just very inconsistent with, good zoning, which is to have housing all the way around, like it was put in the original subdivision restrictions. So anyway, I hope that you will, well, whatever, I hope you've given them 3 options, but thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Petitioner want to say something? Now that you've heard everybody.
Okay, my name is Jeff Maker, and I live at 15 Fairway Drive. Just a couple of things. First off, just to I address what was just said.
I was totally not aware of the fact, if it is a fact, that the town had quote-unquote shut down our well. In fact, the well was dug and it's capped. And that's the first I've ever heard of anybody saying anything about the well not being what it's supposed to be. So that's news to me. I think it's interesting in that when you look at the Howland blueprint of the subdivision, that besides what we've already mentioned, that this lot is the same size or bigger than many of the lots, especially the lots that are on Hillside going down to Atlantic Ave. Those are 100 feet by 98 feet. So just for the record, I feel I wanted to mention that. But more importantly, when we mention, are we in compliance with the deed restrictions? You asked Mrs. Wilson. If you go down, now Hillside is part of this, the original Howland plans that were drawn up. You go down Hillside and there's a garage separate from a house. There's an outbuilding separate from the house. You can go right down. In fact, we have pictures here of this. So it's not as though we're the first to kind of raise our hand and say, can we do something here? As far as the price goes on the lot, I mean, I wasn't privy to the transaction, so I certainly can't say for 100% sure, but we don't know what the transaction was between my father and Bill Devine. They were friends for many years. Why did Bill Devine decide to sell it to him at that price? I don't know. I do know that he was sick at the end. He was elderly. He was sick. Was he in control of his faculties? I don't know. I don't know what the story was. But I don't see that...
What year was that?
That was, it was the year before he passed. It would have been, let's see, sorry, let me get my, he passed in 2018. And as far as the septic goes, initially, we did want to do something more than a garage, a little cottage, perhaps like the cottage that's to the west of us, incorporating a small garage where we could keep a boat or a car or something. But we had questioned Lenny Potter. And, so I am told he is virtually the god around here in terms of septic systems, et cetera. And if Lenny thinks there's a possibility, then go check on it with the Board of Health. Do it. If he doesn't, then you can't do it. And that's what the word came back. He's, you're just so landlocked here.
I've never heard Lenny say no to anything.
So, so that's why because I don't want anybody here to think, as I think it has been implied, that we were trying to circumvent the system or do something that we shouldn't do. That was not our intent. It was strictly that we had been told that fat chance there, and, maybe your opportunity would be, it's a hardship in that all the other neighbors were able to be, had we done this 30 years ago or whenever, no problem. But because we're the last ones to come to the party, so to speak.
You get the leftovers.
Yeah, we get the leftovers, which is zilch. And so, of course, it's obviously frustrating, but it's also, you wonder, okay, is the town now going to give me a tax break? Am I going to continue paying taxes for something that I can't even use? What's the point? Am I going to keep mowing it? It's a nice, clean lot. You said you had been there. We keep it nice, et cetera, for the neighborhood. We let people park there. Am I going to continue to do, why am I going to pay for, I'm going to let the trees grow up. If it blocks views, if people can't park there, I mean, I don't want to sound overly vindictive, but let's be honest. I mean, what the heck, I mean, anyway, I've said my piece.
So how do you want to proceed tonight?
So I'd like to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay, we have a motion
Do we
to,
have to close it?
no. If you need a motion to withdraw, we don't close the hearing for that.
I don't think you have.
No. No?
So we need to make a motion. Yes.
Somebody makes a motion.
I make a motion to accept the petitioner's withdrawal of without prejudice.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Discussion. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That's granted, so you're free. I mean, again, you could come back tomorrow with a different set. And that's the good thing about withdrawing without prejudice. It's essentially like this never happened. But at least you get all the information, all the issues, all the, all the hard points in order for you to understand how you can proceed.
Understand.
I think,
And there is a 20-day appeal, but you withdrew, so it's hard to
appeal of-
appeal
yeah.
the law.
but I guess that what he really would require, if it truly is not a buildable lot because of septic issues, is a use variance, which was not what you came in front of us for. As our attorney said, use variances are usually up to challenge pretty well, and there are 3 people, I would say, that would challenge it if we did give it. But if you, I think I said earlier, if you can give us, if you did hire an attorney, gave us case law to say that our interpretation of soil and topography would include the lack of the ability to put a well on it, then I think anybody who would, oppose it might have a harder time opposing it in court.
In the zoning bylaws, one important aspect of this situation is found actually in a place where you probably wouldn't even know that it's there, and that is in Section 3, definitions. And it's under the definition of accessory use, which states, as was mentioned earlier, that an accessory use without a primary has to be on the same lot. So you might want to look at that as well, or your attorney or whatever, because it's kind of buried, hard to find.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay.
And thank everybody else for coming. It's good to see, neighbors show up and provide, input, just so that, everybody understands what, what the pros and cons are of, a project like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good? We're good.
All right, well,
Thanks for coming.
it was a pleasure, and maybe when these guys come back, I'll be back out. See you guys.
Take care. I was going to do,
Thanks, Jeff. Good night.
I didn't build it.
okay, we're going to, I had on the agenda to do a change to the rules and procedures and And,
Look at you.
but there's only 5 of us here, and I really don't feel comfortable going through a modification of our, there's only 2. You can see the first one is right here. On the page, it's in red. Thank you, Ralph. It just says, you know. And there's another one. So anyway, I'll give everybody a copy of this they can go over. I'm not going to do it today because I'm not comfortable with only 5 of the 7 members here. I think if we're going to vote on procedures and officers, that we ought to have, you know, everybody present.
I'll take the other 2 copies. And
Yes,
put them in
put them in the
George's
things.
constitutional
Yes, that's good.
process. And I'll put it on the agenda for next week, which I already posted. That's gonna be a lot.
Oh,
Put it on anyway, if we get to it, fine, depending.
We can always kick it to the next
We can
one.
always kick it to the
I
one.
don't think there's a rush on
There's not a rush on this. No.
this, so I,
You can see there's only 2 changes. On page 1, it just says the chair may assign the vice chair to preside over a meeting or hearing, where currently, if the chair is here, he's the chair for the meeting. And the second one is way down on page 6. And what essentially that says is that an alternate members will only be seated if one of the 5 members is unable to vote, or to replace a regular member by a majority vote of the regular members. So that allows us to then, on a given hearing, to assign an alternate to be a voting member. And I talked to Jeff Blake about both of these, and he didn't see an issue with either.
now, in both of these, I think it should be clearly stated that whether or not the person given up, you know, the chair, for example, is in attendance, and whether or not they are in conflict or accused. In other words, it's not just for the time.
Yes, and that's, well, anyway, you can read it because it's,
Well, I
I
just,
mean, the chair may assign, obviously, he has to
be
be
there.
there in order to assign it.
no. You could know that you're not going to be here next week, and you say, well, I want you to,
But if he's not here, the vice chair is automatically the
Yeah,
chair.
yeah.
okay?
So, anyway,
Anyway,
if you know, again, wordsmithing is fine.
Yeah, it would be
This is
good
a-
to-
This is a draft.
This is the first thing we did when I joined, was to
Yeah, I
rewrite
never,
this.
I'm glad to have this.
We worked on a lot of revisions. That was the first thing we were doing a lot when I first joined the board, this piece of little
Oh, right.
procedural thing.
Yes.
So it'd be good to review the whole thing to see if there's any other, because we went through a lot of
Yes,
it last
yes,
time.
yeah, read through it. If there's anything else that, do I have something else I have to sign today?
No.
No, I don't have any meetings or
No minutes?
no minutes? No, oh, no, this was just a copy, okay.
The election of officers, you don't have everybody here either. No.
That's what I said, I'm not gonna do that either, because
Well,
I don't feel comfortable doing that with only 5 of the 7 people here.
So Ray, when you, like, so you've lived in town forever, so you know probably what, 50, 60% of the people that come in front?
Good.
Yeah.
Well, working at least for 48 years.
Right, and so that's what I'm finding too, is that like,
that's because you know them, that doesn't mean there's a conflict.
okay.
Correct.
It's just
Right,
like,
because like I knew Brendan Lord growing up.
yeah, that's,
Brendan,
yeah.
Kathy was,
I coached.
Okay, we're talking about other stuff
so,
now.
yeah, so.
If there's any
yeah.
other business,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
second, all in favor?